One of the things that I have returned back into recently is working within the field of behavioral and mental health. And I have been finding more joy and more excitement out of it than I ever really have. I work at a hospital where people come in that are pretty compromised in terms of their alignment, whether
well,
it's...
you like climatic.
Right, yep. And I've had a couple of great examples this week of that. One of the things that I notice is that when we're working with somebody that is trying to stop using a substance to change their level of consciousness, drugs, alcohol, whatever, that their tendency to leave our facility and go and start using it again, which I get from the law of attraction, that makes total sense to me, but I'd like to be able to find either a perspective, well, not either, both a perspective for myself and maybe some words or message to them that give them a little more, I don't know, grounding or support as they walk out the door.
You have to give them the big picture because they're responding to life experience. It's like the analogy that you've heard so many times from us of the car being released from its braking system and going down the steep hill and someone standing at the bottom of the hill wanting to stop it. That's a really tough intention, to stop something that has that much momentum. And so you are wanting to acknowledge that they've had a movie playing for a long time that is their dominant movie. And everything that they're doing action-wise is in response to that movie that's playing. And until a different movie becomes dominant, then that movie, in other words, if someone approaches you with a gun, are you going to be brave or are you going to be afraid? You're going to be afraid. And you didn't get out ahead of it. In other words, there was enough momentum that went that now that's what you're faced with. And so now you're going to have a knee-jerk response that is appropriate to the momentum that you've got going. And so what we're saying to you and what you must impart to them is this is not a short-term solution, it's a long-term solution. And there's some things that you're going to have to come to know in order for this to be easy for you. And it can eventually be easy for you, but these are the things that you've got to know first. And maybe they're going to be ready to hear it and maybe they're not. In most cases, when someone is up against something traumatic, they are asking in a very strong way for a solution. So they've got that solution momentum going and their inner being is really aware and really focused. So you have all of their non-physical resources in cahoots with you to help them. You've just got to find a way of introducing them to that help. Because what makes them return to the other is that they can't find the help, they can only find the relief. And the relief in the drugs is not the help, it's short-term relief. And so if you can find a way of conveying that, and for some, it might seem a little far out. For many of them, it won't seem so far out.
What I noticed was, this past week in a group, I was trying to talk about the whole notion of alignment, and it did really become so many words, and you could just tell it wasn't going where I wanted it to go. Later...
What if you told the story? We told this story for the first time today about what movie are you watching, about Esther actually seeing a movie during her meditation or during her desire for releasing resistance, seeing a movie that she knew was not under the influence of source. So in that 20-minute segment, she knew where that movie was coming from because she understands that concept. And then she knew where that movie was coming from. And then the solution came right away. Now, you all heard that for the first time today and you got it. Did you get it? They can get that. You want to help them to understand that we're looking for human words that are not off-putting, because some are not ready to accept the non-physical nature of all of this. So we would approach it like this. This is you talking to them. Have you ever had a conversation with someone where you had something to say, but they wouldn't stop talking? And so they just kept talking and they didn't do any listening. And you wanted to tell them something that they really wanted to know, but they wouldn't stop talking, and so you couldn't convey to them. Everyone can relate to that. Then you could say, your brain, call it a brain, not consciousness. It may go over better with them. Your brain is like that conversation or that telephone conversation. if you're speaking, you're not listening. And so it's sort of like if you're asking a question or even begging for a solution, you're not listening. So what I'm trying to convey to you, say to them, is that you're either in the listening mode or you're in the thinking mode. And I'd like you to think a little more about being in the listening mode. That not just my conversation, say to them, but life in general. What's your body telling you? What are your neighbors telling you? And then say to them, and this is the key, say to them, I want you to think more about listening and less about projecting, more about receiving rather than projecting. But it's important that you understand what you're listening to. Are you listening to your pattern of trauma, or are you listening for your pattern of solution? Because I know for sure, say to them, and mean it when you say it, I know for sure that there's a solution message and there's a problem message that are both playing at the same time, and you got to find a way to tune to the other, and I'll show you how. And the reason that you want drugs, and I don't blame you, is because if you haven't figured out how to do that tuning, then you want relief. And you know what, friend? Say to them, I applaud you wanting that relief. And I'd be the last person, really, to say you shouldn't seek relief. You should. But that's short term. It won't last. And it leads to all kinds of other things. There's so much physiological negative effect of these drugs on your body that is recoverable once the ingesting of it stops. But the ingesting of it has got to stop. So you're between a rock and a hard place, say to them. You've got pain that you're trying to cover up with this, and what you're covering it up with is doing physiological and psychological damage to your body. So we've got to find another solution, and I know what it is, and I'll guide you to it. They're going to understand every word of that. Every word of that.
For me this week, the most dramatic experience was when I was just leading a very simple listen to the air conditioner meditation, and I was asking for people for their responses after it. And one of the people in the group, who was typically quite quiet and reserved, he said, I couldn't tell if I was the air conditioner or not. And it was so interesting. It's like, and I get chills now when I say that. And when he said this, like, yeah, you got it. And that was very exciting.
And so then you say, and after a little while, once you reach that place, or even before you're aware that you've reached that place, a movie's going to start playing. And your job's just to listen to the air conditioner and watch the movie, if it happens. Watch the movie, if it happens. Just listen to the air conditioner and then watch the movie, if it happens. And then, after they play that game with you a little bit, then you might say, sometimes when I meditate, a movie plays, and I know that it's under the influence of my worries or my concerns. If I see a movie where I'm worried about you guys, I know that I haven't accomplished what I want to accomplish in meditation. But when the movie plays that makes me know you're going to be all right, then I know I'm doing the only thing I can do for you. I've released my resistance, because you know what? You work really hard at convincing me that you're in trouble. That's not the movie that I want to play in me. I want the solution movie to play in me. But you keep wanting to play the problem movie. And so I meditate so that I can get the good movie about you, not the bad movie about you. They'll hear that. And they'll be quite pleased that you care enough about them, that movies about them play for you. I also buy furniture in my movies. Have sex in my movies, eat really good food in my movies. I see wonderful things in my movies, and some not so wonderful things, but at least I know where the movie's coming from and why.
Perfect, thank you.